We're going to be talking today about why wouldn't you repair your windows if it saved you time and money. You know, most people think replacement is their only option, but actually we believe that there's a better way. I'm going to go ahead and make a strong claim that a lot of window replacement companies are lying to you about what your options are. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what those other options are and how Fenster can be of help to you. Jason, you know, you're our delivery driver. You're the man on the street, the boots on the ground.
The face of the company,
right?
if you will.
Right. So, you know, why don't you get the conversation started?
Yeah, no, that is quite an opening.
Start somewhere.
So, you know, it's a incredibly bold statement to make that everybody else that's in the industry that's selling new windows, what's untruthful about what they're doing or how they're doing it?
Well, the biggest thing is they're not offering a repair option. And the way you've got to think about that is it's a combination of ignorance that they don't even know that the repair option exists because they haven't researched those available products. The more misleading part of that is, see, their profits are built into, you know, they're not trying to solve the customer's problem. Okay, they're trying to make money off of overinflated, you know, remodeling job or something like that. So, you know, part of it is some to their discredit and others just to the ignorance. I mean, you know, they don't know that those options are available.
Well, yeah, before I started working for you, I had no idea that you could replace a window sash.
Sure.
Or that you could do any of that. I thought it was just, you rip them out and put a new one in.
Right. You know, and another thing too is there's a lot of window salespeople that don't know anything about windows. And that's kind of there's a lot of people who are very knowledgeable, and, you know, I don't want to take away from their credibility, but I've met a lot of window replacement salespeople that have gone through some training program, right? They're not well versed in window terminology or the industry, or, you know, we talk about a lot of legacy brands that we represent. You know, a lot of what we do and what we add to the industry, see, these are all window brands that have long since gone out of business, right?
Okay.
So, you know, we've come up to make the templates, and we've, you know, done our own replicated versions of an aftermarket product. But see, all these companies have long since gone out of business. So you have the new replacement companies. The industry as a whole is really forward thinking, right? They don't want to have to worry about the product that they made 20 years ago. And dare I say, that's the out on a lot of long-term window warranties. Well, that's got a lifetime warranty on it. Well, there's 3 pages of fine print that no one ever reads, right? You know, where you sign away on the waiver. You know, the family was on vacation last week, and, you know, we rented a boat, and, you know, the kids were like, "Did you read this?" I'm like, Who reads that? You know, who reads the waiver, right? You know, just sign it. You know, we're not going to sue you if we jump off the boat or something. You know, you don't read that fine print in those warranties. So that's how a lot of them get away from that, is like, oh, well, we stopped making that window 4 years ago, so we have no way of honoring that warranty because we don't make that model of window anymore.
Okay.
So, you know, so that's where we really have picked up on that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you've been doing this for a while. How did you come to realize that this product had a need in the marketplace? And, like, how did you even come up with the fact that, I mean, were they building replacement sashes before you?
No. And so, yeah, let me kind of get into, you know, kind of you know, how the idea evolved and, you know, where it's kind of progressed over 25 years in business, now second generation, you know, family owned business. So it's like, we've had a lot of time to figure this out, and we had a lot of time to figure out what works, what doesn't work. So yeah, let me go back to the beginning and kind of start there. So I do consider myself a bit of a pioneer. We're based out of the Indianapolis area, and, I moved here right after college, and I've raised my family here, and it ended up not necessarily being the dream place to live, other than it kind of evolved into, we're about as centrally located in the country as we could be to gain, nationwide distribution, which of course you have to drive, so that's your part of the show, right? Is that nationwide distribution. So you know what I'm talking about. It really ended up being the prime location to build this business as it exists today. So let me go back, we're talking summer of 2000 now. I mean, plus 25 years ago. I had worked for a local home builder here in the Indianapolis area that used a lot of wood window products in the 80s and 90s, right? And fresh out of college, actually, I went to school to be a dentist. I don't know if we've ever talked about that. Graduated from Ball State with a biology degree and couldn't get into dental school. And I was done with school, graduated, ready to move on. I had actually started my first remodeling company when I was in college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were, doing smaller projects, and anyway, not part of the story. So I got on framing for local home builder, and then I quickly worked up into their warranty department. Well, year or so in, I kind of became an area manager where I oversaw several different communities. But part of that responsibility in that job was investigating out of warranty issues. So, back then you had a 1-year warranty on a house, right?
Right.
And then you kind of took responsibility for certain things, and then you moved on. All right. Right. So we had started at that point in the history of that company, we had started seeing a variety of issues come in with rotten windows, right? And it was the builder's due diligence to follow through on a lot of that stuff. And we had gotten those particular manufacturers involved. Well, there was a 1-year warranty on a wood window product even back then. That was it. That was it. Of course, none of them were going to open that can of worms, and from my perspective, there were a lot of windows that I looked at. I'm like, folks, it's a brand new house. I get it, but you still have to take care of it. Not a lick of paint on them, and no maintenance at all. That's part of. Yeah, you didn't take care of them.
They should have.
No one told you how to take care of them either. I get that part of it. But the people that I really had some sympathy for were, I looked at some, guys who were really taking care of their house, and the windows were still going bad. I don't want to get too far off topic, but it's probably notable to say that there was a turn in the industry in the early 80s where, like all the additives that they could dip the wood into, and that like creosote and stuff like that, window products or home building products, they were soaked alongside railroad ties, right? Horrible stuff, but windows didn't go bad. You didn't have the rotting issues and the failure issues that old growth lumber had. You had a lot of new species of lumber coming into the market. They had to grow it fast and turn it fast. So a lot of those factors played into the quality of the products coming out in the 80s and early 90s. They were kind of going organic, away from the chemicals. Exactly. And a lot of the chemical companies had to play catch up because they had to develop new treatment chemicals that, the EPA would accept and all that kind of stuff. So
like a perfect storm of newer species of wood, change to chemicals, change to preservatives.
Yep.
Okay. So exactly. Got it. Makes sense.
Exactly. So that played into a lot of why the industry saw such an uptick in wood window failure through that time frame. No one's going to open that can of worms, right?
No,
right. The manufacturers aren't going to talk about that. The home builder wasn't going to talk about that, But that's when I'm like, what if? There's got to be a better way, right?